Okay, I know I'm not usually one for cheesy, dramatic intros like that, and don't worry, I'll see to it that it never happens again. But this is a case where I felt it was warranted, because I'm finally going to beat this game after 2.5 years. You know, not that it's taken me 2.5 years of game time to beat the game. My life has just basically been a bit of a juggling act recently, between school and having a job and shit. Having to write updates and record boss videos and stuff. If I weren't doing any of that, I would have beaten this game a long time ago. But I don't think that would have been as fun. The fact that I was able to share each and every one of my experiences with this game with you guys from day one really enhanced the experience for me. So, you know, it's definitely been a lot of fun. And since I was playing offline across the entire playthrough, I feel like getting to relay my thoughts to you guys almost allowed me to emulate the experience of playing online, without having to deal with the toxic elements of the multiplayer that I never could stand. The vast majority of you respected my requests to not talk about anything that I haven't experienced in the game for myself yet, and this allowed me to go into the entire game blind with no help whatsoever unless I specifically asked for it. And for that I say thanks for, you know, not ruining the game for me. I really do appreciate that. My final verdict of the game will be revealed in my full review, which I'll begin writing shortly after this video is posted. It's probably not even super necessary at this point though, because I think most of you have noticed that I did turn around on this game quite a bit. You might even wager that this is one of my favorite games of all time now. Though granted, my initial problems with the game mostly had to do with the multiplayer, and my opinions of the multiplayer have not changed one iota. If anything, they've gotten even worse. It's really the sheer strength of the single player experience that caused my turnaround. I'll elaborate further in my review, which I'm very excited to post because in a world where people don't generally have very unique opinions about Dark Souls anymore, I actually feel as though I have a lot of great stuff to bring to the table. And of course, I'm also excited to start the next game in the franchise, which I guess technically would be Dark Souls 2, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility of playing Demon Souls or Bloodborne either. Those are definitely on the table. I happen to own the whole series, so it's not going to be a problem. I also have a non-Dark Souls related project coming up that at least one person should be excited about, which I will reveal sometime later, when the time is right. So yeah, this is the final Black Knight before Gwyn. Can you feel the anticipation? However, just like the Bed of Chaos video, I feel like I'm going to have to show you multiple attempts for this fight, just because I think it's important to see the progression of my strategizing. I'm going to take us back to the very first attempt and work my way up from there. I won't show off every single attempt, just the ones where I made a breakthrough. Alright, so here we are back at the first attempt. The first thing to note is the Eagle Shield, and the second thing to note is that I do use Humanity as a healing item. The cool thing about Humanity is that it heals you all the way, unlike my Estus Flask, which only heals about half. I think slightly less than half, actually. But anyway, here we are. This is fucking it. The last boss. And fuck my life, I forgot to activate Power Within. I was so pissed with myself that I forgot to do that. But the fight actually wound up going a lot better than you'd expect. I mean, it wasn't great, but the fact that I didn't die in the first 5 seconds is pretty cool, if you ask me. Right there, I accidentally switched my weapon because I was a little nervous. If you thought the first 10 seconds of the fight were pretty cool, it all goes downhill from here, don't worry. Before we get into any strategy though, I just wanted to bring up how amazing this music is. This is the first boss theme in the game that I genuinely love. It's just so good. It makes me sad that I don't like any of the other themes nearly as much. But anyway, it looks like I'm finally able to sneak Power Within in there, though in hindsight I probably should have just tried to fight him without it, because it's at this point in the fight where I realize that I'm dealing with a really tough motherfucker, and I probably shouldn't be dicking around with spells and shit. Especially when it looks like I'm too scared to even hit him. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just kinda playing it safe right now. My health is slowly draining and I gotta be aware of that. I gotta start getting some hits in. And I'm actually glad that the Humanity strategy is working out pretty well. But the problem is, I'm actually going to run out very soon, because I only have a limited quantity, of course, and they're not exactly the easiest thing to grind for. Maybe that wasn't such a smart strategy after all. I was able to kinda make it work, but it just wasn't really worth it in the end. And I do drop the strategy in subsequent attempts. I have no idea why I didn't use one there. It was a perfect opportunity, but like I said earlier, I think I was just scared and kind of freaking out a little bit, because it is the first attempt on the final boss. I was just too afraid to commit to anything. And this is where things start getting really sloppy. Even though I was able to activate Power Within, I still kinda spent most of my time running away from him. So I kinda wasted the activation by bullshitting around, not really attacking him much. And this is about where he kills me. Curtains. Not a bad first attempt at all, but I definitely gotta try new strategies and not forget to activate Power Within next time. For subsequent attempts, I also brought along my trusty Grass Crest shield from days of old, in place of my Eagle shield. My Eagle shield has been good to me and all, but the Grass Crest just has a little bit more emotional resonance with me because it's the first shield I ever decided I was going to carry for an extended period of time. Not to mention I can parry with it, which I didn't realize at the time that I could parry Gwyn. That was a realization that I made later. But without that knowledge, Gwyn was proving to be a very tough fight, and I wasn't sure how I was going to beat him. The number of attempts is actually pretty high. It's somewhere in the 20s, but realistically, that's only kinda because I was kinda trying to make the fight look as climactic as possible, just for the sake of the video. I know that sounds stupid, but it's the truth. So the first 8 to 10 attempts or so are just me trying to do a bunch of cool shit. But there did come a point where I was like, okay, this is getting kinda dumb. I should actually just fight him for real. Don't do anything fancy, just play smart. And that's pretty much what ended up winning me the fight. The fact that he was able to wipe out all of my stamina with a single string of attacks told me that I was probably going to be able to parry him. The trouble is, since I primarily use a great shield, I was more than a little rusty with my parrying, so this was going to be pretty tough. Using the Black Knights outside for practice though, I discovered I was still actually pretty good at parrying, and I was confident that I could use it as an option against Gwyn. The only problem is the damage output. 670 isn't bad, but if this is going to be my trump card against Gwyn, I'm going to need a little bit more damage than that. So I upgraded my spear as far as I was able to do so, with my 1 Titanite slab, to bring it to plus 15, the highest it can go. And this brings us to the final attempt. I was ready. The final effort wound up being a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. I'm just happy I was finally able to beat him. I do realize now that it is possible to parry all of his attacks except for the throw animation. There were just times where I didn't really want to risk it because I was only good at parrying one of his attacks. And for what it's worth, I did parry it almost every single time. He just doesn't always do it when I want him to. In this particular attempt, he takes a very long time to actually do the attack that I want him to do. Almost as if he knows. Almost as if he's toying with me or some shit. I think you can more or less bait him into doing whatever you want him to do. I'm just kind of not really sure about every single one of the triggers. I know if you're really close to him, he likes to do the grab, but it's not 100%. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I don't fully understand how it works, and I never will. I do get him right here, though. Boom. 800. Now that's some serious damage. I have just enough time to heal before I can get him a second time. Boom. Big damage. Well, at least by my standards, right? I'm sure you guys have builds that can hit for like thousands of damage, but for me this is quite a lot, because I'm not using the strongest weapon or anything. I have been using this weapon since the very beginning though, so it does have a lot of sentimental value for me. And there you go. After that third consecutive riposte, I knew the fight was going to be over. Only gotta stab him a couple times now. And there it is. I beat Dark Souls, guys. I said I was going to beat it no matter what, and I did. We're not quite finished yet though. There's one more matter of business we gotta take care of, and you know what that is. I wish I knew what it was, but I didn't, so what I'm about to do might surprise you, but it's only because I didn't really understand what I was doing at the time, okay? After defeating Gwyn, the game presents you with a bonfire, not unlike the other bonfires you've seen before. You actually have a choice. You can link the fire, which commences the regular ending, where you succeed Lord Gwyn, or, unbeknownst to me, you can actually choose to leave without lighting the fire, which will commence an Age of Dark. The Age of Dark, as the game describes it, sounds somewhat akin to the end times. Everything ceases to be except for you. There's no more demons, there's no more pain, there's no more suffering. It's just darkness. Peaceful, perfect darkness. Obviously that's the ending I would have chosen if I knew I could choose that, but the way the game presents it to you as this bonfire that looks just like all the other bonfires you've been lighting for the whole game, I don't know, man. I wish they would have made it a little bit clearer that I could have not chosen that. Like, I just straight up thought it was the next thing to do, and not something I could have not done. I appreciate that the game gives me an option to end the world, that's pretty cool. I just wish that's the option I chose. But whatever, I guess it doesn't really matter. The ultimate point is that I beat Dark Souls, and I've been meaning to get around to doing that for the past 2 years, so I guess I should just be happy about that, right? And I will be. So, thanks so much for following me to the end. It's been the shit. And I can't wait to continue this series with Dark Souls 2. I'll catch you guys later.